Chair, I would like to address a number of the provisions of this bill over the remaining period of the committee stages. One of those is around Clause 13, and it's the income tests that are set out in Clause 13. One of the MPs for the National Party, in fact a couple of them, I think even the Minister, has reiterated that this is apparently the realisation of an election promise, but in fact it's not, because they made promises that they haven't kept, actually. And I just want to talk about one of those, because the promises that they haven't kept are those that would provide the greatest support for those who need it. Now, in 2008, the National Party promised to increase the threshold at which benefits would be reduced when a beneficiary earns an income. The promise was to lift the abatement rate, the amount that a person could earn, from $80 to $100. Now, it was one of the very few welfare policies that the Green Party agreed with. We don't think it goes far enough, but it was a good start. And in fact, we would like to see, if it had been CPI indexed, that abatement threshold should be at least $160 a week. Still, it was a step in the right direction. This bill raises that abatement threshold for some beneficiaries, but not all. But the promise made at the election by National was for all beneficiaries to have their abatement rate lifted from $80 to at least $100. So for unemployment and sickness beneficiaries who will earn over $100 a week from the work testing, or from any work that they do, they will now be $14 a week worse off because National broke its promise. National broke its promise to the poorest people in this country, to the ones actually that they are now forcing into work, to work for at least 15 hours a week. And by forcing them into work for 15 hours a week, and by not raising the abatement threshold, the National Government is forcing people to work for nothing, actually. And in fact, worked not only that, but if they had met their promise, that what they're actually doing is forcing them to work for a significant disadvantage. Now, to be frank, having been a beneficiary myself on unemployment and on the domestic purposes, $14 a week to lose is a significant amount when you're on the very bare bones. So not only will the fact that National broke its promise impact negatively on the finances of beneficiaries, but it will also act as a disincentive for them to undertake that additional work. Why will anyone work for nothing in a job that is demeaning and into one which they have been forced for threat of losing their income? Now, the chair of the Select Committee over there is shaking her head. Maybe she doesn't quite realise what it's like to be on a benefit and to be forced into taking demeaning and degrading work at a very low pay, and then be on threat of losing the very meagre income that you have, knowing that you're working for zero or even less than zero. Because in fact you're not going to be making sufficient income even by working that 15 hours to be able to take care of yourself and your family. I mean, that's what this policy does. It impoverishes those people even more. It disenfranchises them even more. That is the all stick and no carrot approach to welfare that is this legislation and the policy of the government. The government was very serious about getting beneficiaries into work. First of all, they'd have a plan for creating jobs, which of course they don't. But they would also provide a financial incentive for people to go out and get work should it be available. But there is none. There is none for unemployment and sickness beneficiaries because the abatement rates are not going to be lifted for them because this government has broken its promise to the poorest people in our country. Now, it's kind of obvious that there are no jobs, and so, of course, this whole bill is going to fail anyway. The Minister has never produced any evidence to show that the provisions in this legislation will encourage beneficiaries off the benefit and into work, and that's because there is none. And in fact, all of the evidence suggests quite the opposite. The Green Party has produced in the last bit over 12 months 3 separate economic packages designed to provide jobs in recessionary times that are both environmentally and socially useful. The government has completely failed to deliver on any of its promises around job creation, refused to acknowledge any of the other good ideas around what could create jobs and help to relieve the very severe poverty of thousands of New Zealanders, and their children suffer every day. And instead, they've produced this legislation through that punishes beneficiaries for needing state support, and in addition, they've broken their promise by failing to make it viable for people to work.